The secret union Amaan and Zara had always known that their love was forbidden. Their families, rooted in decades-old rivalry, would never approve of their union. The Malik and Rahman families had been at odds for as long as they could remember. Business disputes, land feuds, and personal grudges had fueled the fire of hatred between them. But amidst the chaos, Amaan and Zara found solace in each other. They met in secret, away from prying eyes, in a quiet cafe on the outskirts of the city or under the old banyan tree by the lake. Each stolen moment felt like a lifetime, yet it was never enough. Their love was fierce, passionate, and unwavering. But as time passed, the weight of their family's expectations grew heavier. One evening, as they sat under the stars, Aman took Zara's hands in his. "I can't live like this anymore," he whispered. "I don't want to love you in hiding. Let's get married." Zara's heart pounded. She had dreamed of this moment, but the reality of it terrified her. "Aman, if our families find out, they'll never forgive us." "I don't care," he said firmly. "All I know is that I want to be with you, no matter what." Torn between love and duty, Zara hesitated, but deep down she knew there was no life for her without Aman. "Okay," she finally said, her voice trembling. "Let's do it." With the help of Aman's childhood friend, Samir, they arranged a small private ceremony. A trusted cleric, a quiet witness, and the two of them, nothing else mattered. In a dimly lit room of an old friend's house, they exchanged vows, sealing their love in the sacred bond of marriage. As Aman slid the ring onto Zara's finger, he whispered, "From this moment on, we belong to each other. No one can take this away from us." Zara smiled through her tears, gripping his hands tightly. Forever. For a moment, it felt like they had won, but the reality of their secret marriage loomed over them like a storm cloud. They could not live together. They could not share their happiness with the world. They had to return to their separate lives, pretending nothing had changed. At home, Zara's mother spoke of potential suitors, while her father insisted on arranging a marriage within their community. Aman faced similar pressure, with his parents discussing alliances that would strengthen their family's influence. Every day was a struggle, every conversation a lie. They met in the shadows, clinging to the promise they had made to each other. But the walls were closing in. Suspicious glances, whispered conversations, and an unsettling feeling that someone knew their secret kept them on edge. They had chosen love over family, passion over tradition. But how long could they keep the truth buried? And what would happen when the world found out? Living double lives by day, Aman and Zara were nothing more than strangers, two people who barely acknowledged each other's presence. But by night, they were lovers, bound by a secret marriage, stolen moments, and whispered promises. In the bustling streets of the city, they avoided each other's gaze, careful not to arouse suspicion. At family gatherings, they played their roles to perfection, polite nods, distant smiles, casual indifference. No one could suspect that just hours later, they would be wrapped in each other's arms, living a life hidden from the world. Aman worked at his father's real estate business, and Zara, the obedient daughter, helped her mother manage social events. Their families moved in the same elite circles, their paths crossing often. It was torture to be so close, yet act as if they were nothing to each other. One evening, at a grand wedding reception, Aman watched Zara from across the ballroom. Dressed in a shimmering blue lehenga, she looked breathtaking, but she was laughing at something another man had said, and Aman felt a surge of jealousy. He clenched his fists, reminding himself that this was the game they had to play. Zara, too, stole glances at him. He looked composed, charming as ever, entertaining guests with his effortless confidence. She longed to walk over, to touch him, to remind herself that he was hers, but she knew better. When the night ended and the guests began to leave, Aman's mother made an unexpected comment. "Zara has grown into a fine young woman. She would make a great match for someone in our family." Aman's heart nearly stopped. Did she suspect something? Or was this just an innocent observation? He forced a chuckle. I'm sure her parents have other plans for her. His mother shrugged. Perhaps, but one can never know. That night, as the city slept, Amaan and Zara met in their secret hideout, an abandoned rooftop where they could be alone. The wind was cool, carrying the scent of rain. I hate this, Zara whispered, resting her head against his chest. Pretending like we don't know each other, like we don't belong to each other. Amaan ran his fingers through her hair. I know, love, but we have to be careful. If anyone finds out, everything will fall apart. Zara looked up at him. How long can we keep this up? As long as we have to, Amaan said, though deep down he wasn't sure. They kissed under the moonlight, knowing that as soon as the sun rose, they would return to their separate lives. Two strangers in the eyes of the world, but soulmates in the shadows. The mysterious threat. For weeks, Amaan and Zara had managed to keep up their act. Strangers by day, lovers by night. Every glance, every stolen touch, every whispered word had been carefully measured to ensure no one suspected the truth. But their perfect illusion shattered the day Zara received an anonymous note. It was slipped under her bedroom door, a small envelope with no name. Heart pounding, she tore it open, her breath catching as she read the words written in bold block letters. I know your secret. End it before the world finds out. Her hands trembled. Who could have sent this? Was it a cruel joke? Or had someone truly discovered their secret marriage? She clutched the note, feeling the walls close in around her. That night, she met Amaan in their secret hideout. The moment she saw him, she pressed the note into his hands. Someone knows, she whispered, fear evident in her voice. Amaan, what if they tell our families? Amaan read the note, his jaw tightening. It could be a bluff. Zara shook her head. What if it isn't? Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. You can't hide forever. Pay the price, or the truth comes out. Amaan exhaled sharply, his mind racing. This wasn't just a threat. It was blackmail. Someone wasn't just toying with them. They wanted something. Money, Amaan muttered. That's what they're after. Zara's eyes widened. Or revenge. The thought chilled them both. There were too many people who would want to see them suffer if the truth got out. Their families, their so-called friends, anyone could have been watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Over the next few days, the threats continued. More messages, more warnings. The tension between them grew unbearable. Every time Zara's parents mentioned marriage, she felt like she was suffocating. Every time Amaan's mother asked about his future, he felt like he was walking a tightrope. Then, one night, another note arrived, this time with a time and place. Come alone. Midnight. No excuses. Amaan and Zara stared at the words, a deep sense of dread settling over them. Whoever this is, Amaan said, gripping Zara's hand, they're playing a dangerous game. Zara swallowed hard. And we're the ones who might lose everything. A web of lies. Amaan and Zara had no choice but to fight back. The blackmailer's threats were growing more menacing, and they couldn't afford to let their secret slip. Desperate to protect themselves, they started weaving a web of lies. Small at first, but soon spiraling out of control. When Zara's mother found her distracted and anxious, she asked, Is something wrong, Beta? Zara forced a smile. No, Ami, just stressed about an upcoming event. But the lie didn't stop there. Soon her parents were convinced she was overwhelmed with family responsibilities, giving her just enough room to continue her secret meetings with Amaan. Amaan, on the other hand, found himself dodging questions from his best friend, Samir. Why are you always disappearing at night? Samir pressed one evening. Work, Amaan lied smoothly. My father's got me handling some late-night meetings with clients. It was convincing enough, for now, but the cracks were already forming. The pressure mounts. One evening, Zara's father announced at dinner, We've found a suitor for you. He's a businessman's son. You'll meet him this weekend." The words sent ice through Zara's veins. She forced herself to smile. "That's wonderful, Baba." She barely made it through the meal before rushing to call Amaan. "They're trying to marry me off," she whispered, panic in her voice. Amaan clenched his jaw. "We need to end this blackmail before it ruins us." The lies begin to unravel. The next day, Samir caught Amaan off guard. "I called your office last night. Your father's assistant said there were no late-night meetings." Amaan's pulse spiked. "Oh, things changed last minute." Samir didn't look convinced. "Amaan, are you hiding something?" Meanwhile, Zara's mother grew suspicious when she found her sneaking out late at night. "Where were you?" she demanded. Zara hesitated. "I went to meet a friend." Her mother's eyes narrowed. "Which friend?" For the first time, Zara had no answer. The breaking point. Then came the final blow, another message from the blackmailer. "Your lies are catching up to you. One wrong move, and I'll reveal everything." Amaan and Zara had built a wall of deception to protect their love. But now, it was crumbling. The blackmailer was closing in. Their families were getting suspicious, and the weight of their lies was becoming unbearable. Something had to give, and when it did, the consequences would be devastating. A shocking discovery. Amaan had always sensed there were things his family wasn't telling him, but he never imagined how deep the secrets ran, until the night he found the letter. It happened by accident. His father had asked him to retrieve an old file from the study, a room Amaan rarely entered. As he searched through the heavy wooden drawers, something slipped out from between a stack of documents. An old, yellowed envelope with no name, sealed but slightly torn at the edges. Something about it felt off. His father's study was meticulously organized, and this letter looked like it had been tucked away in a hurry, hidden rather than stored. Heart pounding, Amaan hesitated before opening it. The paper inside was fragile, the ink slightly faded, but the words were clear and devastating. "To my dearest, I wish things could have been different. I wish we could have told the truth, but the family would never accept it. Our love was forbidden, and now we must live separate lives. But know this, our child must never know the truth about where they come from. It would destroy everything." Amaan's breath caught in his throat. His eyes darted to the date at the top of the letter, nearly 30 years ago. He read the letter again, trying to make sense of it. Our child must never know the truth. What truth? Whose child? A cold realization gripped him. Could this letter be about him? His hands shook as he flipped the envelope, searching for a signature, and then he saw it. 2 names. One of them was his father's, the other was Zara's mother. The room spun. The air felt thick, suffocating. His mind screamed at him to deny what he was reading, to find some other explanation, but deep down, he knew. This wasn't a mistake. If this letter was real, then Zara wasn't just his wife. She was his half-sister. Amaan staggered back, the letter slipping from his hands. The secret marriage, the hidden blackmailer, the threats. It all suddenly made sense. Someone had known the truth all along, and now, so did he. His world had just collapsed, and there was no way to undo what had already been done. The betrayal. Amaan couldn't look at Zara the same way after discovering the letter. His mind was in turmoil, his heart in conflict. If the letter was true, then their love, everything they had fought for, was a lie. But he couldn't confront her. Not yet. He needed to be sure. And then he started noticing things. Zara had always been secretive because of their situation, but now her behavior felt different. She was distant, distracted. She avoided his gaze when they met in secret. She ignored his calls more than usual, and worst of all, she was lying. One evening, when she claimed she was at home with her mother, Amaan drove past her house, only to see her leaving in a hurry, looking around as if making sure no one saw her. His stomach twisted. Where was she going, and why was she lying to him? That night, he confronted her. Where were you earlier? He asked, watching her reaction closely. Zara hesitated for just a second. At home. Why? Aman's chest tightened. She was lying to his face. I drove by your house. You weren't there. She flinched. Aman, Are you hiding something from me? His voice was low, but sharp. Zara's eyes darted away. It's complicated. Aman stepped closer. Is it you? His voice was barely a whisper now. Are you the one blackmailing me? Zara's eyes snapped up, filled with shock. What? No, how could you even think that? Then tell me the truth, he demanded. Where have you been sneaking off to? Why have you been avoiding me? Tears welled up in her eyes. I can't tell you. Aman's heart pounded. Why not? Zara bit her lip, shaking her head. Because it will break you. Something inside Aman shattered. Was she talking about the same truth he had discovered? Did she already know? The woman he loved, the woman he had risked everything for, was keeping something from him. And now, for the first time since they had fallen in love, he wasn't sure if he could trust her. The race against time. Amaan and Zara stood on the edge of destruction. The blackmailer's threats were getting more aggressive, and with each passing day, the weight of the secret they both now carried threatened to consume them. Amaan still couldn't bring himself to tell Zara about the letter, about the possibility that they might be related. But he also couldn't ignore the feeling that she was hiding something that could change everything. And then, the blackmailer made their boldest move yet. One evening, Amaan received a message with a picture attached, a copy of their secret marriage certificate. The message read, "Time's up. Either you pay or I expose the truth. Midnight, come alone." Aman's blood ran cold. If this got out, not only would their families be destroyed, but if the letter's revelation was true, their marriage would be seen as an unforgivable sin. He rushed to Zara, showing her the message. We have to stop this now. Whoever this is, they have proof. Zara paled. Amaan, She hesitated. I think I know who it is. His breath caught. What? Zara swallowed hard. A few weeks ago, I overheard my mother arguing with someone over the phone. She sounded scared. She kept saying, You don't understand, this can never come out. Amaan clenched his fists. Who was she talking to? I don't know, Zara admitted. But I think it's someone close. Someone who's been watching us. Aman's mind raced. Samir had been acting strangely. His mother had made that cryptic comment about Zara being a good match for someone in the family. Zara's father had been pushing for her marriage more aggressively than ever. Anyone could be behind this. We need to go to the meeting, Amaan said firmly, but not unprepared. The confrontation. That night, they arrived at the dark alley where the blackmailer had summoned them. A lone figure stood in the shadows. As they stepped closer, the face was revealed. Samir. Aman's heart pounded. You? Samir smirked. Surprised? Zara's voice shook. Why are you doing this? Samir crossed his arms. Because you two don't deserve to keep living this fantasy. Do you have any idea what you've done? His eyes flickered with something between anger and pity. I found out the truth before you did, Amaan. About the letter. About your parents. Amaan felt his knees weaken. You knew? Samir nodded. I was trying to protect you, but when I realized you weren't going to stop, I had to force your hand. Zara's face crumpled. Samir, please. We never meant for this to happen. Samir's voice softened, but his eyes remained cold. It doesn't matter what you meant. If this secret gets out, it will destroy everything. You have two choices. Pay me, and I disappear. Or I take this to your families, and you deal with the fallout. Amaan stared at the man he once called a brother, betrayal cutting deeper than any wound. This wasn't just about blackmail. Samir wanted to punish them, but Amaan wasn't going to let him win. He took a step forward, his voice steady. We're not playing your game anymore. Samir's smirk faltered. What? Amaan pulled out his phone, showing the screen. A live recording. We recorded everything, Zara said, holding up her own phone. Every word. Samir's expression darkened. Aman's voice was ice. Now, you have two choices. Disappear quietly, or we go to the police. Samir's face twisted in fury, but he knew he was trapped. With one final glare, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. But as Amaan and Zara stood there, they knew this wasn't over. The truth was still out there, waiting to be uncovered, and when it did, they might not survive the fallout. A hidden connection. Amaan and Zara had barely caught their breath after dealing with Samir's betrayal when another shock hit them, one that neither of them saw coming. The letter Amaan had found still haunted him. The idea that Zara could be his half-sister made him sick with dread, but he couldn't be sure until he had proof. He had to know the full truth. Determined to uncover the past, Amaan went back to the study where he had found the letter, searching for anything that could confirm or disprove his worst fear. After hours of digging through old documents, he found a locked box buried deep in one of the drawers, his father's safe. With shaking hands, he broke it open and found another letter. This one was from Zara's mother, addressed to his father. I kept my promise. No one knows the truth about our child, but you should know. He is safe, he is loved, and he will never find out the truth about his real parents. Aman's heart nearly stopped. He? Not she? His mind reeled. Did this mean he needed to talk to Zara? Immediately. Zara's shocking discovery. At the same time, Zara was facing her own revelation. Her mother, sensing that something was troubling her, finally broke down and confessed. Zara, there's something you need to know. Your real father isn't the man you call Baba. Zara's world tilted. What are you saying? Tears streamed down her mother's face. Your father, your real father, died before you were born. You were never meant to find out, but I loved him. He was the love of my life, but we could never be together. When he passed, I married your Baba to protect you. No one could ever know the truth. Zara's heart pounded. If the man who raised her wasn't her biological father, then what did that mean? And then another terrifying thought struck her. Who was he? Her mother hesitated. His name was... Before she could finish, a knock sounded at the door. It was Amaan. His face was pale, his eyes wide. Zara, I need to talk to you. She saw the letter in his hand, and a terrible feeling settled in her chest. Moments later, as they pieced together what they had both just learned, the truth hit them like a tidal wave. They weren't siblings, but their parents' lives had been tangled in ways they never imagined. Amaan's father had once loved a woman he could never marry. And that woman was Zara's mother, which meant that the war between their families had never been about business or power. It had been about love. A forbidden love that had been buried in lies for decades, only for history to repeat itself with them. Amaan and Zara stared at each other, realization sinking in. They weren't bound by blood, but they were bound by the ghosts of the past. And now, they had to decide, would they let their parents' mistakes tear them apart? Or would they fight for a love that had been destined long before they were even born? The ultimate twist. Just when Amaan and Zara thought they had uncovered every secret, the final betrayal hit them harder than anything before. They had assumed Samir was the mastermind behind the blackmail, but after he disappeared, the messages didn't stop. In fact, they became even more threatening. You can't escape the truth. You thought this was over? It's just beginning. Amaan gritted his teeth. If it wasn't Samir, then who? Desperate for answers, they went back to the only person who had always been in the middle of everything, Amaan's mother. The revelation. They confronted her in the grand living room of their family estate, where years of secrets had been carefully hidden behind wealth and power. Who is it? Amaan demanded. Who's trying to destroy us? His mother took a deep breath, her face unreadable. Then, with chilling calmness, she said, It was me. Silence. Zara gasped. Amaan felt like the ground beneath him had collapsed. You? His mother nodded, her eyes dark with something between regret and determination. I did what I had to do to protect this family, to protect you. Zara's voice shook. You were the one blackmailing us? Sending those threats? Why? Aman's mother exhaled sharply. Because you were never supposed to be together. Because your love, your marriage, was built on a foundation of lies and sins from the past. Amaan clenched his fists. You knew about my father and Zara's mother, didn't you? She nodded. Of course I knew. I knew everything. And I knew that if you two stayed together, the truth would eventually come out. The shame, the scandal, it would ruin everything. So I had to stop you. Aman's blood boiled. By blackmailing your own son? By threatening us? She didn't even flinch. Yes, because fear is the only thing that makes people listen. And I needed you to listen before it was too late. Tears welled in Zara's eyes. You wanted us to destroy ourselves. His mother's voice softened, but her words remained cold. I wanted you to walk away, but you didn't. So I pushed harder, and harder, and now, here we are. Amaan felt sick. The one person he had trusted, the woman who had raised him, had been the puppet master behind their suffering all along. But he refused to let her win. You failed, he said, standing tall, because we're still standing, and we're not letting you control us anymore. His mother's expression finally cracked. Amaan! No, he cut her off. This ends now. No more secrets, no more lies. We're going to tell the truth, no matter the consequences. Zara took his hand, nodding. We deserve to live our lives, our way. Amaan turned to his mother one last time. And if you try to stop us again, you'll lose me forever. His mother's face twisted with emotions, anger, fear, sorrow. But Amaan didn't wait to see which one won. He and Zara walked away together, finally free. And this time, no one would stand in their way. A price to pay. Amaan and Zara had fought against lies, betrayals, and blackmail. They had uncovered shocking secrets about their families. But now, as they stood on the brink of a final confrontation, they realized there was still one more truth left to reveal, and this time it would cost them everything. The breaking point. The night was tense. After confronting Amaan's mother, they had no choice but to come clean. They called their families together, prepared to reveal the truth about their past, their love, and the secrets that had nearly destroyed them. But just before Amaan could speak, Zara's mother stepped forward, her face pale. There's something you don't know. The room fell silent. Zara's heart pounded. Ami, what are you talking about? Her mother's hands trembled. You think the secret was about Amaan's father and me? But that's only part of the truth. Amaan clenched his fists. Then tell us everything. Her mother took a deep breath. Zara, you and Amaan were never meant to be kept apart because of a scandal. You were meant to be kept apart because your life was in danger. Zara's blood ran cold. What? Her mother turned to Amaan's mother, her voice shaking. Because she, Amaan's mother, was the one who destroyed our family all those years ago. Gasps filled the room. Amaan looked between the two women in shock. What are you saying? Zara's mother's eyes filled with tears. Your mother wasn't just against your marriage, Amaan. She was the reason your father and I could never be together. She made sure we were separated, and when I tried to leave with my unborn child, she nearly had me killed. Amaan's world blurred. That's not possible. His mother's voice was deadly calm. Believe what you want, but I did what I had to do back then, and I did what I had to do now. She looked directly at Zara. And I would do it again. Zara stepped back in horror. You were willing to destroy your own son's life? Amaan's mother's gaze didn't waver. I was willing to do anything to protect this family, even if it meant tearing you apart. Silence filled the room. The weight of everything crashed down on Amaan and Zara. The lies, the betrayals, the pain. This wasn't just about love anymore. It was about survival. The final sacrifice. Amaan turned to Zara, his heart aching. "We can't keep fighting this battle." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "Then what do we do?" Amaan exhaled sharply. "We leave." Zara's breath hitched. "Leave?" Amaan looked around the room, at the people who had tried to control them, who had played games with their lives. "If we stay, we'll always be trapped in their past. We have to walk away, from all of them." Tears streamed down Zara's face. "Can we do that?" Amaan cupped her face gently. "The only thing that matters is you and me. Are you with me?" Zara took a deep, shaky breath. Then she nodded. "Always." And with that, they turned their backs on the people who had shaped their destinies, walking away from the life they had known. They didn't know where they would go. They didn't know what the future held. But for the first time in their lives, they were free.